morning and welcome to another episode of Business Beat with me, Odette. This morning I have the privilege of speaking to a former colleague and friend, Karabo Songo, who is the Group CEO of the Brave Group. Karabo's been in the ad industry for a long time, and today we'll be talking about trends that affect the way business will operate in this very difficult economic period. Good morning, Karabo. How are you?
Morning, Odette. Thank you for having me.
So, Karabo, I recently read an article that inspired the need to have a conversation with you about trends, right? You've been in the business of marketing, advertising and branding, communications for the longest time. What do you think the trends are for, one, big companies in terms of how they need to be marketing their brands and products going forward? We saw last year that we had a national lockdown that nobody anticipated, and all the marketing companies sort of stopped their spend for fear. And then we saw a bit of a pickup in spend, and then we had a bit of a wobble again at the beginning of this year. And what do you think the trend is going to be for 2021?
I think for 2021, firstly, I'll start on the client side and I'll also break it down on the agency side. One of my biggest fears with regards to companies being under heavy pressure to actually deliver on business results and actually have spend is a shrinking client team, which I really think that it would be the wrong mistake for many companies to shrink their marketing teams because they need all hands on deck to try and figure out solutions and to turn around and execute in market things that they don't traditionally do. So it's a very big concern, and I hope that clients out there would consider it very hard before they actually get rid of teams within their structure, because a good client team really drives for a good agency relationship. So that's kind of the first trend I've seen. The second one is really how we allow the youth to take charge of the mobile era. So right now, I think a lot of sales and brand marketing gurus and clients have found themselves where their traditional trusted methods are not readily available. So promotions on the ground, events, sponsorships, etc.
Yeah.
So you are sitting with executive teams who've got numbers to hit because their products are essentially still available on retail shelves, but they don't know whether to go for how to go forward and convince and fight for that share of wallet. So, and what it requires is people who understand how to execute mobile or digital ways in exciting manners that stand out. And I believe that young marketers do have the ability, but they don't necessarily have the decision-making power in organizations. So those are the two big trends that I think that would be key for clients to really consider.
And I think you've touched on it. We see the large-scale retrenchments taking place. We see companies not performing financially. And of course, when that happens, the first thing they do is they cut staff. And then you see that the first department that gets cut is the marketing department. And this is because generally clients see marketing as an expense and not an investment. And the brands, in my opinion, and if you look to history, brands that have survived the Great Depression, that have survived the worst of economic turmoil, are the brands that upped their spend during tough economic times. So I totally can relate to the trend that you're talking about. Talking about young people, you know, the landscape has definitely changed. Who would have thought that things like TikTok would take off? Crazy youngsters using a cell phone doing something entertaining, right? And what I'm not seeing is brands leveraging that. So we're still seeing platforms like TikTok that take like seconds to go viral being overrun with content that is humorous, that is entertaining, that is funny, but that has nothing to do with marketing. Do you think brands should be disrupting platforms like TikTok with branding or integrating it into the entertainment of TikTok, for example?
I'll look at the South African landscape first, and then I will drop it on a global view as well. average age of many executives in top leading organizations is in their 50s and 60s, right? So in relative terms, they're actually younger, but they're still much older for the markets that
Yes.
the products they serve. So that's the first issue that we have.
Because they don't know what TikTok is, right?
Absolutely. And secondly, I disagree with you a little bit on the fact that we didn't know that it was coming. I think that a lot of organizations take far too long to buy into new concepts because they want to manage the proverbial risk, right? And the question is, what the guys that actually risk it and actually push ahead of their competitors usually have the benefit of owning and being prolific on the platform. And if I bring it back to South Africa contextually, a lot of South African executives and board members are usually number crunchers. That means that they're accountants, CAs, etc. And these are the guys that make decisions on big consumer brands, right? And these consumer brands need really viable brand communications that connect with these consumers that they're actually targeting. And a lot of the time, if we look at how many young people actually are at the decision-making party in order to be able to justify why we should be trying the new forms, the new mediums, new formats, it takes far too long. And that's really the big challenge that we have from a South African perspective. I think the people are there. I don't think that the marketers don't see the trends. I just think that most marketers are not at the right decision-making level. And I mean, I often ask CMOs, are they part of an exco in a large organization? And most CMOs are actually not sitting as part of the exco, as part of the business plan. It then begins to tell you how seriously that particular organization actually takes marketing and advertising and brands that they actually sell to the marketplace. And it's interesting that it's much like that in South Africa, but in most first world markets where they're driving a lot of sales, actually in their pipeline and succession for CEO roles, they are also equally considering more CMOs to take over as CEO so that they can actually have brand-led organization. So it's a very interesting one, especially it's both organizational culture and also the conversation around how far young people can bring new energy and vibrancy to brands.
I know that you're so passionate about entrepreneurship, and I definitely don't want this to be the last conversation you and I have on Business Beat, but our time is up. And I would like to say, please stay safe. And I definitely will be talking to you. Thank you again very much for your time and your patience. I appreciate it. And strongs out there to you and the Brave Group. I know you guys are doing amazing things. I watch you from a distance and I wish you guys well. So to the viewer, there you have it. If you are a consumer, you know now that online provides you with options. If you are an entrepreneur, you know that you need to find that special sweet spot where nobody is playing, and then you can even make your former employer your first and biggest client. And to big corporates, for goodness sake, you have gems in your marketing department. Don't let them go. Until next week.